This episode of the WiLLcast is with Bernadette from Envision, our friends over at Envision.
I love our friends at Envision.
They're awesome.
They're great people.
And Bernadette does amazing work here in Fond du Lac. She's an advocate for manufacturers and young professionals. And while she doesn't have a formal manufacturing background, her kind of journey has led her into manufacturing and supporting that community. And it was kind of great to hear her perspective coming from outside the manufacturing world.
Definitely. And I know you know Bernadette more through the manufacturing role that she has at Envision. I've met her more through the young professional role, and I've helped her a little bit, not a ton, with her summer series, which she brings in the interns that come for the summer from all over the country and work at different organizations in Fond du Lac. Think big ones like Merck or Ahern, but then also some of the smaller ones as well. Like if Will had a summer intern, they joined this program to help acquaint them with the Fond du Lac community with hopes that they'll return post-graduation and take full-time positions here. So she's doing so much great work through that program, through the Young Professionals organization here in Fond du Lac, and really just a lovely human. She grew up in Fond du Lac, left to go to school, came back, and is really just a great advocate for the Fond du Lac community, as all of our friends at Envision are. Really awesome human.
For sure. And she does a great job with the MIT committee, and was recently at an event over at Moraine Park that she helped organize, and that was great. Just the networking and kind of the knowledge collective that Envision and Bernadette help support is super important. And this I think this is a good time to have this episode be sponsored by the Ledge Games, which is a few months out.
Oh, yeah.
10 months?
Something like that. Not too soon. We've got a lot of work to do before then.
You can sign up already. You can sign up right now, right?
Yep. Registration is open for the 2023 event, which will be held Saturday, September 30th at Red Cabin at Green Acres. The Ledge Games are an amateur lumberjack competition with the goal ultimately of raising funds for local technical college education and supporting students that are interested in the trades like manufacturing. So it's a great day celebrating local manufacturers. We have some really great partners on this one. It's not just Will. A lot of WiLLcast guests.
Yes.
Integrity Saw and Tool.
There's some good food, too.
Oh, there's some great food.
The Chameleon food truck.
The Chameleon food truck. Dave at Red Cabin sets up a huge tent with all giant turkey legs, foot-long chili dogs, all kinds of stuff. And there might be beer.
Maybe.
And maybe.
Might be beer.
Rumor has it. So it's just a really great day. Lots of fun, even if you aren't competing. Great spectating, family-friendly event. So many kids' activities. So we love to see everyone there.
And a good time of year to have some fun in Wisconsin.
Yes, the best weekend of the year.
Well, enjoy this WiLLcast with Bernadette from Envision. So tell me about the event from Tuesday that you set up at Moraine Park. I was there. It was a great event. How did that come about? Mm-hmm. Is it something you guys do every year?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you know, it was for our Manufacturing, Innovation, and Technology group, which we lovingly call MIT. But it's a group that formed about 5-6 years ago. It's designed specifically for individuals that are either owners or senior leaders within manufacturing businesses or suppliers of the manufacturing industry across Fond du Lac County. So we try to bring them together to either tour different businesses or tour resources, as in Moraine Park. So we wanted to make sure that our manufacturing industry was aware of the great resource in Moraine Park, the training programs they have, and just what's to come with their potential referendum this fall.
Yeah, it was cool. As I mentioned before we got rolling, I think I've been to Moraine Park twice in the last 20 years. One was when I was a little younger as a kid. I took a class there during the summer, and then we were there for a banquet for the Ledge Games a few years ago. Mm-hmm. But it was cool touring. I think they call it the B wing, mm-hmm. which is the manufacturing wing, and having more of a manufacturing perspective now. Just going through and seeing all the resources that are available mm-hmm. to the community, and you can see have this great room with a bunch of Haas CNC machines. They have little automation cells set up that are very similar to the event or similar to the automation sales at Wells Manufacturing, which you set up that event, a couple months ago as well. But you can start to connect the dots and put the pieces together on, how from a manufacturing community standpoint, everybody's kind of working on the same stuff. So that was a great event.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for coming.
Have you always been into manufacturing, or what's your background?
Yeah, so with my position at Envision Greater Fond du Lac, yes, a lot of what I've been focusing on is the manufacturing industry, just given that it is the largest industry in Fond du Lac County. But my involvement in it has varied a lot. So like what you saw with that event at Marine Park in the Manufacturing Innovation Technology Group is much different than my work with Project Grill and high school students, which is a year-long project-based learning experience. We pair technical education students with an area business, and they go through the whole design process of creating a functional charcoal grill from scratch. But it's so much more than that because they have to tour all of the sponsor businesses. So this year there's like 11 tours they're going to go on. And then they have to present to those businesses, manage a budget, fully fabricate a project. So my point is the way I've been involved in it is different, but it's all ultimately about trying to elevate our manufacturing industry in the county.
Sure. So you get to see kind of the talent development pipeline. You get to see the design side of things.
Yeah.
And also the manufacturing engineering, and it's kind of cool to have that angle on the community. Who are some of the major I guess players in the manufacturing space, major businesses? Like I said, we were at Wells a couple months ago, but who are some of the other companies you work with?
Yeah, I would say we have a lot of major players, that's for sure. But as far as those that I work with pretty frequently, like with Project Grill, for example, you'd be surprised it's a wide range as far as like the scope of the business or the scale. So we've got Mercury Marine, obviously, greatly involved in a lot of things that we do, all the way to some of the smaller businesses like Integrity Saw and Tool or Minowski Welding or even yourselves. So it's a wide range, which is so neat. And I feel very honored and privileged because I get to tour a lot of these businesses and learn a lot about what they do. So, and our reach is across the entire county, too. So we started working with Alliance Laundry Systems, Walsworth and Ripon, things like that. So we're trying to be more deliberate about not just city-centric.
Is Project Grill a template? I know I've been to other fabrication vendors and other part makers that kind of feed our assembly process in other parts of the state, and I've seen other grills being made. So is it a template that we have adopted through Envision, or what does that look like?
You got it. So it actually started in Sheboygan.
Okay.
And Johnsonville Bratz started it with some
makes
passionate
perfect
folks
sense.
in the community. Yeah,
I never knew that. This
That's
all
really
just
cool.
clicked in my head.
Nice.
So before I started with the organization, there had been a conversation with them about, hey, what if we recreate it for Fond du Lac County? And they were like, yeah, absolutely, go for it. So we then created a program. It's been 15 years now this year. So 08, 09 is when it started. And I've been running it for 7. So yes, it's evolved and other communities have since adopted it. So we just kind of have made our own program unique. And I like to think the best.
It seems like it's very highly regarded.
Thank you.
So you got Project Grill, you have the MIT committee. What else are you involved with at Envision?
Yeah, so I'm lucky that my position allows me to do a lot of different things. I have a bit of creative freedom, which I appreciate. Sometimes, I can overindulge, but
we all do.
Yes. But one of the other programs that I wanted to talk about was our summer series for college interns that we started about 3 years ago. Again, I found a program down in Oklahoma that had something similar, and I was like, this is fabulous. How can we create something like this for Fond du Lac and essentially use that as inspiration to create what we now call our summer series, which is, as the name implies, a series of events for college students who are here in our community just for the summer, interning at a business in the area. And we're trying to show them the best of the best. So it's a workforce retention program. We're trying to make sure that they're aware of the amenities here, what life could be like if they chose to accept a position, if they get offered one, and just really trying to help the businesses with selling the community, essentially.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
So what's your background? You're from Fond du Lac originally, and where'd you go to school?
Yeah. So I grew up here, born and raised. I'm like 5th generation. I have a long line of family on both sides that's from the area, which is pretty cool. I went to St. Mary Springs.
Okay.
Yep. So graduated a while ago.
There's a big, they're doing a big addition or a big building project over there?
They've got all kinds of good stuff. They
Yeah.
finally have a nice football field out there.
But no lights yet.
Yeah. What's up with that?
We tried.
I-
Sore subject. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, ooh.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So St. Mary's Springs,
Yes.
and then where'd you
Yep.
go to college?
And then I went to college up at the University of St. Thomas in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I loved it. I studied sociology.
Okay.
I minored in psychology and justice and peace studies. So you're probably thinking, what in the world? Like, how does that get you to where you are?
I was almost a psychology major.
Okay.
That was it was
This is the first time I've heard that, and
it's true.
so many dots have just been connected in my brain.
I just wasn't psychology major. It seemed like you have to get a master's and then a PhD. I was like, I just don't know if I could quite handle that much more school. So,
Yeah, that was kind of where I found myself too,
Yeah.
honestly. So when I graduated college, it was in 2009.
Okay.
In the midst of the recession, and it was really hard to find a job. And
Yep.
many of my friends decided to keep going on to school because it was like, I can't find a job right now, so I'm going to continue my education. And I definitely considered it. I had been looking into master's programs, but ultimately, I didn't choose going down that path.
Sure.
And it's worked out just fine for
That's
me.
awesome.
I had a social work job straight out of school.
Okay.
And I thought for a while that's what I would get my master's in, but I found that I'm a pretty empathetic person, and it was very challenging for me. And so I'm glad I had that experience, because then I didn't pursue further education, end up highly overeducated with, no
Yep.
experience, that sort of thing.
Yep.
I've had a variety of jobs, like very unconventional. I also spent a year guiding canoeing and backpacking trips in northern Minnesota.
Really?
Yes.
Like Boundary Waters?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's really cool. I've
Yeah.
never done the Boundary Waters. I know a bunch of people that have. It seems
That's
like
awesome.
an adventure.
So I grew up doing a lot of paddling, so it was a nice fit, but it was for a nonprofit that is totally focused on making the outdoors accessible to everyone despite physical or cognitive ability.
That's so cool.
So it was fascinating, because some of the trips would be with families who wanted to take a trip but just didn't have the gear, or a Girl Scout troop. But then other trips would be with folks who were living with a variety of limited abilities. And so some folks were even in wheelchairs. And so we would, take them in and out of the boats and that sort of thing, or living with blindness. So it taught me a ton. So ultimately, like, all of the things that I've done have been in some way like tied to education.
Yep.
And then I was living in Madison for a bit, and I actually worked in a retail setting, was managing a store there, but we had a big team. We did a lot of events in the community, hence getting a lot of experience doing large-scale event planning. Those were more so with like yoga studios, CrossFit boxes, organizations like that. So I worked for them for a number of years, and then wanted to get home and found this job, and here I am.
That's a fun career path.
Yeah.
You've done a lot. Done
unconventional.
A lot of, it's awesome. So are you still an avid outdoors person?
Yeah.
Still hiking and nice.
My dream job was always to be on Discover Wisconsin.
Really?
It didn't work out, but maybe one day. Like,
Never
here
say I am.
Never.
So
Stop
this
and
is-
grab,
you can
stop and
send
grab.
them
Yeah.
this podcast as your interview, your highlight reel.
That's right. Here I am in Fond du Lac.
So what's it like? So you have all this experience, psychology, sociology major. You're from the area, and
Sure.
now having that manufacturing perspective. I've said a few times recently, but my family's been in manufacturing for some time. Aunts, uncles, cousins, everybody was a machinist, a mechanic, But it was almost like there was this push to get people out of manufacturing, and it's like you shouldn't get into that. Go to college. Don't end up in a factory. What's it like coming back with this experience and really trying to support the manufacturing community and trying to inspire people to get back into it?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it's interesting where I'm at now, is where I think manufacturing could and should be a great place for people to work, whether they're on the shop floor or they're in a marketing and business development position. But I think there has to be a perception shift.
Absolutely.
What is that like for you coming back to Fond du Lac and being involved?
Yeah, that's such an interesting question, too, because I grew up with many family members working in manufacturing also. So I hear what you're saying, and it's coming back in general was just an interesting experience.
Yeah.
Because when I left, I was like, I'm never coming back. But I love Fond du Lac now.
A boomerang?
Boomerang.
Yeah, that's what they call me.
Yeah.
I was also young and had a different perspective, and
Yep.
I just was like hungry to see the world, and
For sure.
still am, but in a different way.
Yep.
And coming back home, being like the new kid in my own hometown was a very strange experience. Like trying to
a great way
find
to put
what's
it.
my niche, like who are my people, where
Yep.
like what do I care about, what do I want to be involved in outside of like my work.
Yep.
And so still kind of figuring all that out.
Yep.
I've been home for a number of years, but when it comes to manufacturing, it's been really eye-opening for me. I think even just getting into the four walls of a lot of those businesses to help me understand that it is such a great career path. As you mentioned, if you're doing marketing or if you are the welder or whatever your position is, but there's so much opportunity. And
Yep.
I think we don't do a good enough job of like being proud of what we create here. And I feel very privileged to be able to try and help turn that around, whether it be through, like, again, Project Grill and showing these students and helping them find a placement at a job where they can grow and potentially continue their education. Like, I feel very honored to do that. And there's a lot of work to be done, but it's promising to me to see someone like you who's using what you have here as a platform to try and do that.
Yeah.
Even with this podcast and everything. So there's work to be done, but I think
that also means there's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
A lot. It's untapped. And like Beck and I have talked, in the past. It's the way that I see it is there's so many people that drive by these big boxes on the side of the highway called factories, and they never even think to visit them or even appreciate where products come from or what it takes to design and engineer things. And it's like the factories need to be turned inside out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you guys definitely help with that through a lot of the networking on the business side. And I do think there is a major shift happening. We had 25 kids from North Fond du Lac High School here earlier in the week, and I was like super impressed with these kids.
Awesome.
I was blown away at just they're very polite. They were just very, very pleasant to be around, and they're really interested in what was going on. And I think they had more of a sales and a marketing focus. I don't know how many of them have ever been through a manufacturer, but that's exactly what's needed. It doesn't do any good to have more manufacturing people through manufacturing. It's you have to get other interests and other people through, and little things like that can make a huge impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that just makes me think about how upset I get when a lot of people talk about the younger generation and how they talk about the lack of work ethic or the lack of interest in X, Y, and Z. And that's probably a whole nother talk show. But I think when
we could get into it.
Yeah,
I agree. That makes me mad too.
Yeah, because I just don't think that's fair. And I think that every generation says that about the next younger one anyway. But I think like with what you saw in those students, I promise you there's so much more of that in a lot of the other schools. And it is very exciting and promising to see because
and it's not
there's
their
interest.
It's not their fault that they're not interested.
They just don't know what they don't know.
They don't know, and frankly, companies and company leaders and communities have not made manufacturing exciting.
Correct.
So why should they be excited about it? So I think that that is shifting, which is great. But I think there's still a lot of a lot of work to be done. And I think it's another thing that I see too, which another thing you guys just really, really help out with is companies get so guarded about revealing all the secrets inside inside their facilities. And I'm like, there's so much more that you gain by interacting with people and bringing people through. Maybe there's a few trade secrets that get lost here and there, but it's just, I think, again, back to the idea of turning the factory inside out for everybody, I think is key.
Absolutely.
So what else is going on at Envision?
All kinds
That's
of good stuff.
There's a lot of stuff there.
Yes, I brought a lot of stuff, lots of reading material. No, another program I'm really pumped about that we're launching actually on November 3rd is we're calling it our Concierge Luncheon, and essentially it's a workforce retention program, but it's meant for newcomers in the community, because what we hear from a lot of employers is if they're struggling to retain people, they sometimes feel like maybe they just don't know what's going on in the community or ways to essentially like put roots down here. So we're trying to, in a short time span, kind of highlight some of like the amenities, the workforce or economic development initiative, and some of the nonprofits and community organizations here. It's almost like a welcome wagon event.
When you think about retention issues at the community level, and you had to break it down on what percentage is job opportunity related, what percentage is, call it, food and culture and all the other things that, larger cities have to offer. And then, what percentage is like cost of living, like how does that, because retention, it probably is a little bit more nuanced than just one of those things, but where do you see some of the major opportunities for improvement?
Yeah, I personally would say just in some of the amenities that I think we are currently lacking. I mean, I think in the last 3 years, we've come a long way,
sure.
I think.
Yes.
Even downtown, there's been this resurgence of small businesses popping up. But I do think some of the, more things to do has always been what everyone said, but places to go and things to do in that way, I think are things that we still have opportunity in,
for sure,
as you said before. So certainly, we have great selling points like our cost of living, like our quality of life, and we do have some of this new, as I said, a breath of fresh air kind of coming into the community. And it's like, do you want to be a part of that? Join us now, because there's a really good momentum here. But certainly, I mean, and that's my personal opinion, I think that we could have a few more amenities to get people to be drawn to not only visiting, but staying.
Yeah, and I wonder how much of that will naturally happen over time with some of the boomerang folks. I was talking to Joe at basketball one day, and he was saying how there's a lot of cities and communities across the country that have identified opportunities for, kids that moved away and that are now coming back and bringing, all these perspectives with them. And there's formal programs now to, to really make use of a lot of that stuff. But I think do you think it'll naturally happen over time, and you guys are just trying to accelerate the development of some of these amenities, or how do you see that going over the next decade?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I hope that it doesn't take a decade. That's true. First and foremost. But I think, yes, to a degree, things will happen naturally. We're trying to move things forward as best we can as an organization. As far as ideation and those sorts of things, I mean, I even think the Young Professionals group is a great platform for people like our age and boomerangs or what have you, who have had other worldly experiences, for lack of a better description, to say, how do you want, if there's not something here that you want, what are you going to do about it? Because there is opportunity to make it happen. I believe that so strongly. You have to create the community you want to have. It's really easy to sit on your hands and complain. And so I'm not really fully answering your question, I don't think.
No, I think it's it sounds like it's a combination of those folks being aware of each other.
Yes,
is the first thing, and interacting and knowing that if somebody does make a business investment or somebody does have an idea, there will be a community to support them.
Yes,
and then it's interesting too, because at the end of the day, a lot of this stuff it takes resources, and I wonder, do you see a lot of private investment flowing into the area? I
mean, yes and no. I think that I would say we have a lot of very generous businesses who support tons of the nonprofits. I mean, for a community our size, we have an incredible amount of nonprofits that do a lot of good work that are all funded by, the private dollars or grant dollars, that sort of thing. So in that way, yeah, absolutely. When it comes to certain, amenities, yes, I think there's an interest in it. I don't know, I can't speak to what's being invested in and what's not, but your idea of making people aware of the others and the other like-minded concepts. I think of the night market in downtown Fond du Lac. I volunteer on the committee that plans that, but that's kind of an example of like, hey, we see an amenity in another community, actually many of them, why not Fond du Lac? And so a number of us came together and put our ideas on paper and, you know, so on and so forth, and made it come to life. And so the downtown Fond du Lac Partnership runs that, but it's made up of a lot of volunteers. So that's just one example of like, why not?
Yep.
So
I like all the there's all these electrical boxes that have art designs painted on them.
Yeah.
I was like, that's really, really cool.
There's a lot of art flowing into downtown Fond du Lac.
Yeah.
Like the bike shop, and I know that's not the name, so I apologize to them now. They have a huge mural.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's really, I've noticed that in the past year or so, just driving downtown, that there's really been this push on the parking structures everywhere to
No, that's
just make it shine.
It looks great, and we're going to do a mural on our wall over here. So there's a cinder block wall that kind of sticks out right now from all the black steel siding. So there's going to be a mural there. We just have to come up with a concept and find an artist.
Minor details. Minor details.
Awesome. That sounds cool.
So what else do you want to talk about?
I don't know. I mean, those were lots of the highlights.
I need to give
Becca?
Bernadette props. You're way underselling the summer series.
Oh.
I've witnessed and been a little bit of a part. I got to be a mentor, guest speaker, whatever you want to call it.
Fabulous.
I talked a lot. Shocking. I think I overwhelmed them.
No.
But it's such a cool program. I mean, how many kids did you have in that program?
Yeah, thanks for bringing it back. So we had 128 students this past summer, and they actually represented 24 different universities and colleges across the country, which is pretty sweet. And here they are in little old Fond du Lac for the summer. They're doing internships or co-ops at businesses, anything from, again, Mercury Marine to JFA Hearn, Excel Engineering, you name it. And again, we bring them together for this series of events, just kind of say, hey, here's like some professional development, here's some fun. We took them to a Doc Spiders game.
Nice.
Teach them things about networking and interviewing, that sort of thing. But yeah, it's pretty phenomenal, and it's the only one in the state of Wisconsin that we're aware of. So we're proud of that.
Yeah, I went to a YPF event. They did Amazing Race. Most of them were interns. They called us. I got called old. They're like, "You're not an intern." I'm like, "Jeez,
you're uninvited."
Yeah, but it was really cool to see. They were all super engaged. They were really excited to be there, and it was a really great tie-in to an event like Amazing Race, where you're going to 20 different Fond du Lac businesses to really showcase. We started at Thelma. It was a Thursday night. They got to see the music, so I was just really impressed.
Thank you.
I spent a summer in Milwaukee when I went to school in Milwaukee, but all of my friends left. I was interning, and if I would have had something like that, just more students like myself who were kind of stranded for the summer, it would have been, I think it would have been a really great asset and something I would have really enjoyed.
Awesome. Yeah, one thing we're working on with that program is having some of the individuals who have gone through it now be on our planning committee. So we're like, you can Zoom in to our meetings, but we want your perspective. Like, how do we make this as relevant and the best it can be as possible? And also we're trying to get a handle on how many have been hired and have since moved to the community, because many of them are not from Fond du Lac. I mean, there were a few that grew up here and were home for the summer, but a majority are from all over. So because many of them are interning as juniors, it's kind of a long game for tracking, like, hey, did they ever take that position? But we're working on kind of collecting that information too. Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks. I loved it. Hey, big fan.
Great.
Not
sign you up for
I was going to say I'm not
2023.
volunteering. I get roped into lots of things. I spend too much time at Envision as it is.
Hey, the door's always open.
I know.
So speaking of a busy calendar, what does the next 12 months look like for the Envision calendar?
Yeah.
Yeah. Super busy. We have so many different things, not just me, obviously, but, you know, we have our annual meeting coming up in February, I believe.
Is that moved up?
Yep, back
Moved
into
up.
the winter.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Don't know the date offhand, unfortunately, but it's in February. We continue with all of our YPF programming. Our senior HR group does monthly programs. I mean, we have project girls underway. We do a lot of business retention and expansion calls. I mean, you name it. Agribusiness is doing a huge fundraiser. If you need some cheese boxes for the holidays, they're beautiful. They're filled with goods from all over the county. Good stuff.
Nice.
all kinds of really phenomenal programs. Yeah.
Okay.
Rumor has it you have a really cool business connection next December.
Yes. Tell me more.
Adam, it's here.
Oh, great.
Oh yeah,
I'll be here.
That's,
I'm pretty sure it's December.
is it December?
It's either November or December. Next year, Will is
Nice.
on the calendar. You sent me.
Well, no,
he's
that
looking
gives
at me
us
like
enough
I'm
time
crazy.
to
Great.
get some stuff done inside. Because we got our
Great.
building, we got the exterior all
Yeah.
done, and now we have
Love it.
bunch of new
He's-
automation equipment and other machinery that
So 14 months.
get 14 months. Okay.
You're looking at me like I'm crazy when you forwarded me the email.
We both thought, what is this?
Well, that was the one where everybody thought it was this December. Because that
Yes,
was
there was a panic internally
Yeah.
when we sent out the meeting
Oh.
invite. They thought we were crazy, and we pushed it out a year.
But that was just like super good planning.
Hey, that's
Yeah.
she was Jillian. Does Jillian handle that?
Yeah.
She was speaking my language, man. I
Nice.
was happy to see that.
Cool.
She's a great lady.
Well, Bernadette, thank you very, very, very
Yeah.
much for all you do, and
thank you.
I think there's some good energy, and momentum in the community, and you and Envision do great work.
Oh,
So
Thank you.
come back anytime and let us know how we can help. But
Awesome.
thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, this has been awesome. Honored to be here.
Cool.